Christmas came this year. I'm all psyched. Dudes, the merch is in. Super happy about it. Don't eat paint. Everybody else got theirs a day early, but I got here. Oh, super psyched about it. I'll put a link in the description if you guys are curious. But more importantly, I gotta give it 2 more minutes to steep. And then I get to enjoy new mug. Don't eat paint. I'll explain that one in a second here. We'll do a preamble. Then bad for education, good for men. Basically describing what we do here. So if you guys don't know the don't eat paint reference, it's because in the 50s, they used to have lead in paint. And what happens is a bunch of retard kids used to lick it. They'd lick the paint because lead tastes sweet. Of course, if you guys know lead's also poisonous. And so they eventually had to put like a big warning label on the thing for liability purpose saying, do not eat paint. And it's kind of like spitballed from there to like the 80s where it was like, no sharp edges. You had to take the metal out of the lawn darts. And it's gotten to the point now that because if you give somebody a hammer and they hit themselves on the fucking head with it, it's your fault. So you have to put hammer like not for violent self-use, just for hitting nails. And it's this weird infantilization of adults. And the military used to have it. Used to say all the time where they were like, yeah, you got to teach to the lowest common denominator. And it was one of those things I hated because there was the one idiot in the room who's like, this is great. And everybody else bored out of their mind. And they never really expected much from you. And you never had to perform much. I made a conscious choice. It's like, you know what? When I teach from now on, I'm not going to teach the lowest common denominator. In fact, I'm just going to kick the lowest common denominator out. I'm here for guys who have 2 brain cells and don't think like Redditors. So that's the reference for don't eat paint. So when I say don't eat paint, it's when you give a guy something like, I don't know, what RedPill tools we got? AWOLT, Dread, negging, whatever. Those are the 3 common ones that everybody seems to know, right? You need a shirt that says not my problem. Yeah, I may have to do that. Like, these are going to be limited time, by the way, right? Like, I'm not keeping them up forever. They're going to be up for, I don't know how long yet. Maybe 6 months, maybe less, maybe more. But, and then I'll send those off, do their thing. I might even just do it based on, like, milestones, like channel milestones as we hit a certain amount of subscribers. And then, once that's done, start a whole new line. So it'll be kind of fun. Yeah, corporations use government regulation to crush their competitors. Well, they use it for a lot of things. It's a very good moat. If you don't know, in business terms, they call it a moat, which is like you're preventing other companies from interfering with your market share. You're making it more cost prohibitive for them. Yeah, warning, don't look here. Yeah, so that's one. So didn't Van Gogh eat paint? I have no idea. He simped for a hooker, so it's none of my business. He does what he does. Oh yeah, my notes. We got a good one today, guys. It's Carl free. Carl's doing Christmas things like Carl does. Now that he's got the girlfriend, he's got to do the whole family thing as well. So he's having fun with that. It is kind of neat. You know what? For all these guys talking about never again, man, never again. I'm just noticing every switched on guy eventually gets tired of Strange. And then one of the girls, whichever one showed the most enthusiasm, the most genuine desire, and not in that BPD way, in the way like where they clean his house and cook for him and stuff like that, the guy always is like, you know what? I'll give this one a shot. So as much as the poly people want to say, if you don't have a harem, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know, man. 98% of the people seem to be perfectly happy. Perfectly happy doing it up. What's up, Ryan? Good morning. Good morning to you, Bruno. You're my second favorite Bruno in the chat. I'm sure Georgie's here too. So yeah, topic. So we're calling this one preamble and merch talk at 0000. But it's neat. So I'm probably sounding a little bit rough today because if you don't know, Ontario just had Lockdown 2 Electric Boogaloo. I think it's starting Monday, maybe. So what they're doing is it's the same lockdown we had last time that everybody was kind of getting out of, but they're going to change some things. Like if you go to the movies, what people used to do was like buy popcorn, buy drinks, and then as long as you're eating, you didn't have to wear a mask. So like, yeah, none of that. No more popcorn and drinks at the movie theater. We're like, that'll stop COVID. Like, you can't help but think, like, this is like somebody who never got invited to the cool parties trying to punish everybody else for getting to them. But whatever. The Omicron variant. So yeah, it's a weird situation because it's like, it's really testing the limits to the Serenity Prayer, right? You know, it's what is that? God, give me the strength to change things I can, the fortitude to withstand the things that I can't, and then the wisdom to know the difference. Well, you snuggle your own stuff in a theater anyways. Those prices are nuts. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a whole speech in and of itself. Yeah, they never got invited to anything fun. But that's where we're at right now. Okay. In the meantime, doesn't change much. We are getting our Christmas snow finally. I mean, it sort of looks like snow. It might be freezing rain, but you know what? Whatever, we'll take it. I think we're pretty much going to be homebodies until the Christmas season is over. The only thing we're missing is the final run for dinner. If you guys haven't yet, so a couple recommendations. These aren't red-pilled recommendations. These are Ryan recommendations. If you lock up your daughters, is that a thought down? Actually, I should give that a second to cool down. First sip on the mug, burn myself, spill it all over the shirt, have to reorder everything. Fun fact, by the way, because I wanted to get it at least as early as you guys. I paid full retail for it too, so kind of annoying. It's like, I make my own merch. Aren't you supposed to get this stuff at cost? Better discount to the guys that are subscribed to Digital Ryan, you sons of bitches. Oh yeah, by the way, all right, let's get the business shit out of the way here first. So, www.youtube.com/c-digitalryan. So, we have a little community going on here. They're calling it the T-Rex Army, whatever. And great bunch of guys. It's all the guys from here. A bunch of you are in here. You can let me know. It's more casual. Because, like, I've never been a fan of the 1984, talking into the microphone, shit like that. So this one is more casual. I'm like, you know what? Just throw on some Minecraft or whatever. Play a couple games. Something to do that's in the background while we can talk about stuff more casually. It's a much livelier chat. Still got zero, artism in it. And there's a community tab in there. So for the community tab, you can sign up. There's 3 tiers. There's basic support, if that's what you're into. There's the SMP tier. So we have like a server, a little Minecraft server we go on. There's actually a couple guys in the channel that are content creators making their own channels off of it. So it's pretty good. And the 3rd tier is for people who want to do the Q&As. So we're up to like 150 of them almost. I think next week will be 150. I've talked about it before. Again, great group of guys sitting in there, field reports, struggling marriages, struggling relationships, even, single guys who are struggling with getting their foot in the door. So it's kind of neat. But a lot of guys hate Patreon for the various reasons they've had over the years. So the 3rd tier, called the T-Rex tier, because, the T-Rex. So they can get the same Q&As without having to fund it through Patreon. So that's good to know anyway. Oh, you know what I should do? Let's keep it clean. We'll switch it over. Because I don't have a widget yet for Super Chats. I got to find... I'm still not the best with StreamYard OBS. So this is kind of how I have to do it now. So I'm going to do it this way. There we go. So from Forum, thank you for the $10 Super Chat. I have family in Ontario, and they constantly poke at all the things I wouldn't be able to do if I moved since. No joke. So it's off to putting, and they see nothing wrong. They really don't see the problem in this? Like, that's messed up, dude. Like, I went home to see my family back in November in British Columbia, and they have it so much better than we do. But not just that, like, there's like a giant flood. If you guys don't know, so most of the towns in BC go like north to south, with the exception of like a small east to west thing from the Sunshine Coast to Alberta. Big valley, and there's like towns and all in there. A flood came down, flooded like 4 different towns. Like, they're just gone, underwater. Oh yeah, Aaron, and I still have the Patreon. The Patreon's there. It does its thing. This is for people who don't want to support Patreon, the company, but still want the same content. So that way there's multiple options. You can support YouTube or Patreon, and the channel. But it's good. Like, it's no red meat. We just talk about field report. We just do field reports. We fix guys and like no tolerating bullshit, making general efforts. And the fun, you know, the part I love about it the most. Hey, Forum. Yeah. The part I love about it the most is that guys come in and they don't know how to do a field report. They don't know how to articulate their goals. They don't notice sometimes when they're acting incongruently with how they want to be versus how they are. Like you'll say, yeah, I'm stoic, but then it's like they're freaking out at their wife and shit like that, right? Yeah, BC's like paradise. Anyways, back to that. Yeah, BC's like paradise. Mass is recommended. Yeah, but the thing is, they have like real problems. Like some dude's house, there was on a news report. A guy was talking. He went into his house, heard a noise, went outside to go look, turned around. His house was floating away. And he's like, holy shit. And the reporters there are still pricks, right? Like this family just lost everything they've ever had in their life. And they're crying on camera. And she's like trying to bring up more memories to get him to cry. She's like, yeah, this will get me my Pulitzer. I'm like, you bitch. Yeah. What's going up? J20. It's good to see you, man. The great merch Christmas. Yeah, Jack, it's that bad. It's like up in real life. But here's the point. You're trying to tell those people, it's like, yeah, just so you know, the Omicron variant. And they're like, fuck you. Where's my fucking property? It's gone. And it's not a climate change thing. It's a forestry management thing. They didn't plant enough trees back after forestry took them to slow down the swell water. So, yeah. But I mean, whatever. I find the whole thing irredeemably annoying. I was kind of hoping that election would be the thing where people would voice their disconcern, but clearly didn't work out that way. Yeah. Didn't they build homes on floodplains though? Well, it wasn't a floodplain. It's a river valley, like the Rocky Mountains, right? There's a big valley in between the Rockies and all the towns are inside of there. And the idea is that floods happen all the time, but there was enough trees that would slow down the flood so that way the river could take it. Like the North Thompson and that. The problem is when you don't have a good reforestation plan after, forestry, and this NAFTA and the softwood lumber kind of affected that mostly. You get a case where nobody was preparing for the worst. And then you had that once in 500-year flood. And then all that time that people could have spent over the last 30 years doing replanting to prepare you weren't there. So it's very annoying. Yeah, you Texas guys, very jealous for you. And Revo, thank you, Brian. Your videos have helped me get over my broken mindset. Dude, I saw your comment in the main channel too. Thank you very much. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still looking at forums comment. It just makes me laugh. BC people just chucking shit at us. Yeah, it's just annoying. But went to go see Ryan Long yesterday. Pretty funny comedian. And he makes me laugh because he drops the F-bombs, the bundle of sticks bombs, a lot. No chill. He's not canceled. Not only is he not canceled, he's getting big. Like, I have a feeling, like, I remember when Bill Burr, I used to be a fan of him way back before he was famous for anything. And I'm like, I think this guy's going to make it. And I got the same vibe for Ryan. So, like, keep an eye on him. I have a feeling he's going to go somewhere. Maybe find him in a Star Wars trilogy reboot. Anyways, enough of the preamble, enough of the merch talk. Let's get to, you're here for RedPill. 1338. RP your friends. So that's the topic of this one. For this Christmas, Ryan's sharpening Ryan. Yeah, us Canadian Ryans have to stick together. Have a drink of your coffee. If anybody else has the mug, by the way, dude, throw this shit up on Twitter or Instagram and at me at it. I will blow it the fuck up. I will save these photos. I am truly humbled and impressed and happy that everybody's enjoying this stuff. So anyways, so don't red pill your friends this Christmas. What the hell is he talking about? What's he mean right there? I can show a guy Rolo stuff. I see him. I think somebody even in the chat way back, right at the beginning. Here, let's get to it. What did he say here? I find it sad, really, watching my friend keep talking back to this girl that doesn't want him. Genuine desire can't be negotiated. Now, here's the thing. There's a couple reasons. Just join while I'm slurping. Nice. There's a couple reasons you don't want to red pill your friends, and we're going to go through all of them. So at least now, when everybody's like, don't red pill your friends, everybody's like, yeah, whatever, I got this. You're like, no. The whole red pill thing has never been about telling other people what to do. It's about understanding why things work the way they do and you making your own choices. So when I say don't red pill your friends, it's not a commandment. At this point, it's a heuristic. So the first reason you can't red pill your friends, you're not good enough yet. Yeah, at least to get a salary in my company, we're paid barely above minimum wage. Jesus. Not every Ryan gets it, Lucky. That sucks. Oh, Governor Megatron. Dude, you got your goddamn shirt before me too, you son of a bitch. Wearing the shirt the second time to the gym shortly. By the way, you handled the Bubbles thing wonderfully. I was like taking it as a compliment. You're like, yeah, Bubbles played with Rush. Oh, and you have the same glasses as MLD John. He made a note. He's like, hey, those are my glasses? I'm like, yeah, the boy's got taste. What can I say? So you're not good enough. What the hell do I mean by that anyway? Well, you're not good enough. Like, if you're telling somebody how to live your life, and you're always telling them, hey, you guys got to do this. You got to read Rollo Tomasi. This is amazing. It's the greatest thing ever. Here's the thing. I find the amount you talk about the red pill is inversely proportional to the amount of it you actually have implemented in your life. In other words, the people who talk the most about fucking karate are white belts, and they know the least about karate. So you'll see, I've seen guys brag about, oh, I've watched like 4 episodes of Rule Zero, and I follow Rollo on his channel. And I'm like, all right, like that's not red pill. That's I love the guy. You know this. It's not coming from a place of hate. It's just anything we do on the screen here is to some extent marketing, like flat out, honestly. If this was just about sexual strategy, everything is written down, and most of us would just like copy things down, put them onto stuff. You can get by with the red pill in a take it and leave it, reading the first year of Rollo on his blog, the first year, which is most of his important comments, the No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover, and When I Say When I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith. Get through those things, start, fixing whatever you can do, and then move on to Practical Female Psychology for the Practical Man if you're single, which is great, or even in a relationship, but you focus on it more if you're single. It's by David Clare and Franco. Or the male, damn it, they keep changing the name, Athol K's Mindful Attraction Plan. But if you can find an old version that's called the Male Action Plan, the MAP, a very unfortunate acronym, by the way. But if you can get that, and then that's like the married side of things. You can basically get by on that. Now, there's more. You can get into the weeds if you want to. But here's the thing, though. This is like a co-op program. So you'll get guys, okay, you'll read Glover. You'll do the breaking free stuff. You'll read Manuel Smith. You start being more assertive. Most guys who are red pill find at some point they get like a massive change in their income. 20% more income. They got a promotion. They move to a new job. They changed industries, that kind of thing. And it turns out we are leaving money on the table, fellas. Like, when... do you know how everybody's like, yeah, if you don't have a Lamborghini and 6-figure salary, like chicks don't give a shit. Sounds great. You're like, yeah, fuck those bitches. Give me your Gumroad course. Let's make that 6 figures doing, shilling Gumroad courses. About how to shill Gumroad courses. Not shitting on Gumroad courses. I'm shitting on shitty Gumroad courses. How many times can I fit shit into a sentence, Anyways, yeah. So you get rid of all that stuff. I'm like, well, let's look at it this way. What you're earning right now, you most likely could be earning 20% more with a little bit of assertiveness, a little bit less nice guy behavior, and a bit more cocky and funny, And then you realize it's like, oh, wow, that's what's being red pilled. It's like, yeah, navigating. It's navigating the sexual marketplace and a positive identity for men. That's the 2 things it's always been about. That's literally Rule 0. Rule 0 is you're here for positive male identity and sexual strategy. That's it. That's not even the first rule. It's the 0th rule. So, yeah. You're not there yet. And none of us are there yet. I would not consider myself there yet. I don't think anybody does. I don't think Rich considers himself there yet. John doesn't consider himself there yet because there's no there. Anybody who's telling you they have the answer, they have the light at the end of the rainbow, they have the gold coins that you can eat for chocolate, the manna from heaven, they're lying to you. Because every time you get where there is, there changes. Everywhere you go, there you are. So you're not there yet. But when you're first starting, there's very easy wins. Like just telling a girl no and watching her demeanor change towards you. It's a fucking superpower if you're a pushover, a floor mat. If you're a fat fuck and you lose 20 pounds become, oh, wow, I'm 190 pounds instead of 230. And all of a sudden girls want to touch me. And you're like, wow, it's amazing. You make your first $100,000 selling Gumroad courses. And you're like, holy shit, that's amazing. And you start strutting around like you're king fucking dick, which is fine because that's the point. Like, you can't tell a guy to be his own mental point of origin and then get mad at him when he starts running victory laps around his, like, you know, objectively good changes. But, and this is like a very cautious but, you're not there yet. And you find this out because, like, everybody did it. John, love John to death. MLD John he gave you a meta example of exactly what red pilling yourself means. So you watched him when he first started out. He basically hustled, started doing his work, learned about marketing, learned about sales, learned about this stuff. You know, fake it till you make it. Did a lot of faking. Then he made his fortune. What's this? 2 million in revenue for the thing. I don't know what that's going to be in profit. I don't know what Teachable takes from the top end, but whatever. Even if it's 50%, made his first million. Absolutely outstanding. What does he do? Turns into a cocky asshole. Of course he's going to turn into a cocky asshole. What did you think? Do you think when Rich made his first million, he just sat there stoically reading Marcus Aurelius? Fuck no. He grabbed a motorbike and called everybody else a pussy. I guarantee it. I've done it. You've done it. Anybody who's done it has done it. And it's funny because it's off-putting to other people for a couple reasons. It's partially it's because your success reflects on their failures. That's one aspect of it, right? So if I see you doing well and we started from the same place, well, that's showing me that I didn't do something that I should have done. So why am I not successful too? And then you get kind of irritated and you get mad at the guy. Secondly, you just become sort of insufferable because you haven't been used to success yet. So you're bragging about it. You're telling the world because you're proud about it. But normally, and this is the law of power. This is funny because this is like, I know I tell you guys all the time, with the laws of power, read them, then forget them. Then when they come back up in your life, you can be like, oh yeah, law of power. Make success seem effortless. I can't remember what law that is. I want to say 17, but let me see. Laws of power. Somebody actually made like a blog for all 48 of them too. All right, so not conceal your intentions, court attention, get others to do the work, bait, argument, unlucky. Oh, I can just do a search. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. And you're like, holy shit, I never even thought about that. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to the red pill, sir. Why do you think this shit is here? Make your accomplishments seem effortless. So when you're sitting here bragging about you've done this, you've done that, you're crushing it, you're sleeping with 9s and 10s only, bro, you got a Lamborghini and all this shit, you're already kind of showing like you're not there yet. Take some work. Never expose the sweat behind your pose. Don't use tips and tricks. You want to make it seem graceful and easy. And you know how we always say, like, there's like a game thing, like never be self-deprecating with your humor. Well, this is the point where like it's good. It's like, oh, it's, you know, we all just earn what we do. It's a team effort. It's not off-putting, but I mean, most guys, give them 6 months of being a cocky asshole, they'll calm right down. Here's the point. During that entire red-pilled process, you shouldn't be telling anybody else shit because they're not going to hear you. They're not going to hear you because you're reflecting on their poor behavior, and they don't want to hear that shit. They don't want to hear from you because you're an asshole and you're pissing them off with your annoying banter, so they don't want to hear it. And they don't want to hear it because you're not there yet. Like, imagine, I just got my driver's license. I'm going to start up a race car school. Who's going to sign up to that? You may be the greatest driver eventually, and you're not there yet, but nobody's going to buy driving lessons from you. So it's just like that. You're not good enough yet. Second reason. Let's just do the chat here, then we'll get to the second reason here. Yeah, the lack of attention span is the problem. I think people have, like, I give people more credit. I know there's this, like, oh, people don't have the attention span. I have ADD as much as the next guy. Trouble focusing on stuff. I find when it's something that I get interested in, I focus. So I don't think it's so much an attention span. I think it's because if you do red-pilled stuff, but you don't really do anything, you just kind of read and internalize, but you don't act on it, there's no feedback. Like, there's no positive feedback. Learn game, sleep with girl. You sleep with girl, that encourages you to learn more game, to sleep with more girls. If you learn game because you want to be perfect, and then you try to learn more game, you learn more game, you lose interest in it. Don't have the attention span for it. But you see what I mean? There's that natural feedback loop of people. Oh, look at Derek in the chat. Perfect example. Red pill theory works great in Sarah. You know what? This chat is just too damned nice not to put in here. It's probably going to be hard as fuck to read, but whatever. I think it's worth it. Actually, you know what? Well, whatever. Do your best. You're in the normal chat. But this will be good. So if somebody's watching, it's just like, holy shit, this guy's popular. Look at all these amazing switched on guys talking in his chat. And like, yeah, we're pretty awesome in here. But Derek's red pill theory works great in sales. Bumped up my close ratio by being a prick. Well, I mean, cocky funny. You're not being a prick. But these are all like subjective terms anyway. What you're doing is being assertive, and you're not trying to placate others or seek their validation is it. And every now and then you might see the dog. He's sleeping here because we just tiled our kitchen. Well, we just took out the tiles for our kitchen. There's a giant cement slab in my kitchen right now, so the dogs are sleeping in here with me. Carl is at home right now doing Carl things with Carl and his family. Yeah, well, like Aaron and you guys, you'll talk all about why it works, and that's fine. Like, I don't really care about why. It was actually one of my first posts back in my old blog, is that I called it "Why is such a stupid fucking question?" Navel gazing, right? Here's the thing. This works. You try it, it works out. You know why it works. You kind of understand the mechanisms, insofar as you need to. And you're like, yeah, this is great. And then you'll get the guys that try to analyze it to death. The navel gazers. Here's the biological evolutionary reason. And you're just kind of like, ugh, why do you have to take something that works so well? Like, you want to tell time. You give somebody a watch, and they're like, oh, great, now I can tell time. I can do everything I need. And there always has to be the one idiot who takes the watch apart to examine how it works. Then he forgets how to put it back together, and that whole time, he could have been doing shit. Instead, he's fixing his damn watch. So I'm not a big fan of... Like, I understand the mechanism behind things is useful, but why, most of the time, is a stupid question, and I don't enjoy it. But hey, that's just my opinion. Why isn't ask for depth on a subject? That is not a bad idea. Yeah, well, why do you want depth on a subject? That's the question. Not you, but in general, why do people want depth on a subject? Generally speaking, if you haven't applied it, you don't know if it's useful. Let's say AWOLT is a stupid mental model. Let's say it doesn't help anything. Let's say it hurts something. And you're sitting here, some guy's talking to you about AWOLT, and you want more depth on a subject. I want more depth. I want to understand the nuts and bolts of this thing so I can make a good choice. It's like, that's not the most effective use of your time to find out if you want to apply something or not in your life. We actually have some tools for that. You must put this bucket on your head right now. Easiest one. You see a guy with a bucket on his head talking about how this bucket on his head makes his life great, and you need to put this bucket on your head now. If you don't notice, this is a parable for, red pill or anything. So you look at the guy with the bucket on his head. And it's actually not Rich's one, like, would you trade places with that guy? Because I don't think that's a fair way of looking at it, but like, did the guy accomplish what he claims to accomplish? If he's talking about, dude, red pill, it's game, you learn about sexual dynamics, the world's your oyster, it's everything. But he's sitting at home and he's not getting laid. Would you follow that? Probably not. So yeah, don't red pill your friends. Don't red pill your friends. Yeah, Carl with the $5 super chat. When have Jack on channel? Actually, that's a good point. I haven't asked, to be fair. We'll probably hook it up. I think we're talking on Tuesday this week, though, on his channel. So yeah, I mean, like I said, for guests on this thing, there's no real reason for it. More often than not, when somebody shows up, it's because we talked maybe 2 days before, had some interesting conversation. I'm like, hey, dude, if you're free on Saturday, you should totally come down. And they say yes. Sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they say no. But yeah, it's generally not scripted. But don't worry, Jack and I will get you your fix on Tuesday. Minecraft Standard Time, as he puts it. Okay, so you're not good enough yet. And second reason, don't red pill your friends, because you haven't read the room. What time am I on at the time? Hold on a sec. 25, 41. So you don't read the room. The hell do I mean there? Well, when you try to red pill your friends, you got to understand, like, what's going on in your head is yours. It's not mine. It's not his. It's not your friend's. It's not that. A lot of guys, when they try to red pill their friends, they don't read the room. They don't understand everybody else's ego because they're so busy focused on their own ego. And actually, here's will be a good example. Cal, again, thank you. US $5 super chat. I used to try and red pill my friends. They roasted the ever-living shit out of me and proceeded to get girlfriends and begin marriage plans before they turned 25. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Megan. Ryan's novel guests make for the most interesting shows. And that's really my only criteria. If it's somebody who I find knows something better than me and I'm interested in it, then I usually want them on. Doesn't have to be much. And I kind of like... Now, I don't know. Some people I'm like interested in, but they have bigger brands than me. And I don't usually ask. And I don't know why. I think I've asked a few and I never had them get back to me. So part of it is just like I'm not big enough to get their attention. But another part of it is kind of like if I'm talking to somebody who's branding like me, they're probably just going to be all brand. And I don't get to have a human conversation. So I kind of like non-brand people, if that makes any sense. So what'll happen then? A lot of guys will try and red pill. Let's say your buddy. This one's a common as shit scenario where some friend of yours is with some horrible, horrible wife and, you know, bitches about her constantly, complains about this, that, and the other thing. And you're like, oh, let me red pill you. You know, these bitches ain't shit and, you know, you ain't shit and that's okay. And here's AWalt and here's Rolo and all this shit. And you tell him all this information. You didn't read the room. If he is so hooked on this horrible chick for him, it's an emotional decision. It's not a logical one. If it's a logical decision, you need to kick her to the curb. It's an emotional decision. He loves his kids and he's afraid of losing them. He has scarcity. So when you start red pilling this guy, here's what happens. He goes back home to his wife and he gets mad at you because you're telling him what he doesn't want to hear because he loves his wife, even though she hates him. That's why he's complaining. He just wants her to act right. Why can't the world accommodate my broken mental models? Rats you out to his wife. His wife's like, I don't want that asshole in your house anymore. Bam. Now you've lost a friend. Now you've lost a family member, whatever. You didn't read the room right. Worse is, it's not even if you're wrong. Like, let's say you are switched on. You're there. You've got your 6-figure abs and whatever. 6-figure abs. I kind of like that. I'm going to use that reference. You got all that shit. Doesn't matter. In fact, the better off you are, the more his codependent wife or girlfriend will probably push back. I don't want you getting better, because when you're better, you might realize what a piece of shit I am. Therefore, eat this cake and kick him out of the house. And you're like, yes, ma'am. Will do, Megan. I mean, no guarantees. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring, but that's the goal so far anyway. That's pussy talk. If you have something valuable to offer, then is your duty. Oh, yeah? That's your duty, huh? Okay, Red, you go do that. You go preach from the mountaintops. You come back in 6 months and you tell me how it worked out for you. I'm telling you right now. And when I get to reason 3, that's my personal reason is reason 3, by the way. So I'll get to that one. But yeah, you don't read the room. And that's part of being red pill too. So it's almost like reason 1. Because if you can't read the room, if you don't have that situational awareness, if you can't tell how words are going to affect, like what kind of response you're going to get from the other person, then socially you're missing. The chicks would call it EQ, emotional, quotient or whatever, but it's not a real thing. It just means you're not savvy enough to understand how like reactions people have. I really like this cup for like a porcelain one. I thought I wouldn't like it as much as the stoneware, but I actually do. Really happy with it. Where was I going with this one? Oh, yeah. So, like, you're missing it. You're missing that social savviness to be able to read a room. So you know when somebody's there. And if you were smart about it, too, you wouldn't just, rational male, blah, 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 blah. You wouldn't do any of that shit. What you do is, like, somebody would have a specific problem, and you just kind of ask them a question to get them thinking. You like little breadcrumbs. And the idea is you don't want to invest in a guy's life if he doesn't invest in himself. I can actually pull up a great example from Reddit, which is embarrassing, but whatever. Is it this one? No. It just came out, too. Oh, there it is. /r/ask. A great example too, and it's from another angle, but the reading the room. There we go, this guy here. I'll put a link in here if you guys want to look at it yourself. I can't stop laughing in my wife's face when she's mad, and she keeps increasing the stakes in arguments until I cave. And he gives like, I've read Mr. Nice Guy, and I've read When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. We've been together 11 years, no kids, but she's pregnant now after 5 years of infertility treatments. And then 2 problems. He's like, I laugh at times when she's mad. Like his coping strategy when she gets angry at him is to start laughing, which is pissing her off more. And it's over like nothing. Then the wife just keeps pressuring because she knows if she gets angrier and angrier, eventually she caves. So he's essentially like encouraged her to have really shitty reward systems. It's not so much about him though. So when you read this guy's thing, like here's the thing, the wife's increasing stakes in the argument till I cave in. It's gotten to the point where once she brought up divorce and just quitting her infertility treatments, we both want kids, but I want it more than she does. I said she crossed the line, that's acceptable, and blah, blah, blah. She became soft and sweet, begged me to get back in bed. She's quite manipulative when she wants to. How do I handle this? And if you go through the guy's posting history, from what I haven't done it myself, but other guys did, and like for 6 years, he's been bitching about the same stuff. Absolutely clueless. I really don't know why this girl is with him. Like when you read this, you're like, how in the fuck did she put up with any of this shit? You're just like a codependent, martyred narcissist fuck. But 6 years, he's asked a bunch of questions, and he always comes back hat in hand after ignoring everything else he was told beforehand. So reading this, read the room. Why would you waste any effort trying to red pill this guy? What do you think's going to happen? Do you think if you make that advice just good enough, if I act like just enough of a tough love drill sergeant, if I just say the right thing, if I get him angry? Yes, thank you, Marty. Bam! Don't eat paint, motherfucker. Yeah, if you just do this just right, if you give him just the right example, if you send him the right links, it'll fix him. And if that sounds like a covert contract, that absolutely is. And it's so many guys. So for example, the Ask Married RedPill subreddit, the anti-Reddit Reddit. This doesn't exist to help guys. It's not an advice sub. And every now and then guys like this, like, I'm supposed to come here for advice. Why aren't you guys doing that? They have their own covert contracts. As long as you tell me what I want to hear, then whatever. That exists because the Married Red Pill was for guys who are switched on to swap notes with each other. And they found there was an increasing amount of guys who just posted bullshit. So they made that, the Ask Married Red Pill sub, as like a retard filter. You guys go here. And if you're because if you read the Married Red Pill, it flat out says, you know, get through the sidebar stuff, try things out first, then if you have a question, post your question. Nobody reads that. They just kind of come in there with like, hey, wife won't fuck, what do? So they come here. And so you know this guy has already shown you he has, again, read the room. How much effort has he put into his own life? He never bothered to read the 3-minute sidebar read that could have helped him through 90% of his problems. It's got a list of the most common questions and the common answers. It's got a list of like the 3 things he needs to start right now that'll fix 90% of his problems. Hasn't done any of that. Just come in. I'm special. I'm sweet. I'm super. I want 100 guys to stop what they're doing and tell me how to fix my life, which I may or may not do anyway. And so you get 2 types of answers. There's not switched on answers and there's switched on answers. Now, the switched on answers come in a few different flavors. The first one is where you test a guy. Like, is he going to put any effort in there? And usually that's where you get like the shitting on guys thing. It's a great thing Wine More Please talked about, like guys with no frame things they do. And that's where you pull your tough drill sergeant thing. You're not actually yelling at the guy. You're not trying to get him to do anything. You're testing if he can separate tone from content. You're like, is there potential for here or am I wasting my time? And if it's a clueless guy and you've read the room improperly, he's going to lash out. You can't call me a stupid bitch. I'm the fucking alpha male. And you're like, well, you came here hat in hand, buddy. And then you realize lost cause not going to help. But if you come in with that, you know, very harsh tone, but good content, and then the guy responds well, is like, oh, okay, you know, acts a little bit of self-awareness. Yeah, I'm going to try that. I'll get back to you. Then when he comes back, you're like, okay, this guy's at least invested in his own life. So if I want to invest in it, it's not a waste of my time too. Because, I mean, if you don't get any satisfaction from what you do, why would you do it? The next flavor of switched on answer is just levity. Making fun of the guy. Like, just realize it. Because you just realize, like, it's a tacit admission that this guy is not worth anybody's time. So For the locker room of guys, let's have some fun. You know, you poke some fun. Oh, this is great. You know, have a good joke. Hey, this guy sounds familiar. And then you put out like a picture of, you know, Cucky McCuckerson or something like that. Maybe the mods will have a thing. A lot of times, too, what you're doing is you're looking for the answers from the other guys. So the not switched on answers. Here's the thing. 2 types of non-switched on answers, too. The first group of guys, they're not actually trying to help him. And I know it sounds weird. Why is he giving advice on an advice sub if his purpose there is not to give advice? Well, here's the subtext of it. The best way to learn something is to teach it. 90% of what you learn and teach, you'll retain. It's something like 30% of what you write, 10% of what you read, 20% of what you hear, shit like that. Very small percentage, but teaching, 90%. Ask any teacher, they'll know. We might quibble over the differences, but it's, yeah, teach. So they're not helping him. Usually somebody will read a field report and it'll resonate somehow with their life. Hey, I used to be this guy. Well, here's what you do, because here's what I did, and it worked for me. What they're doing is they're articulating their own mental models, because sometimes, dude, we can't escape our egos. As much as I say you got to shed your egos, you can't. So by writing this down as like an after action report, you're articulating what worked for you. And then by doing that, you're solidifying your own mental models in your head. You realize, okay, this guy's problem is he doesn't stand up to his wife. He encourages bad behavior, you know, reward good behavior, don't reward bad behavior, all this kind of stuff. The guy will articulate it. He'll get clumsy about it. Maybe somebody else will correct some things. They have a back and forth. Bam. 5 people just improve their lives at the expense of one asshole who's not doing anything but wasting everybody's time. Holy shit. Did you guys find a way to turn a blue-pilled beta cuck simp into something useful for men? I'm like, yeah, yes, we did. But that's a not switched on answer, because it's not to help the guy. The second one are the guys that get mad at him. This example has one from a guy, SB3, I think it's called. Yeah, there he is. And you look at this. He's in here. What a passive-aggressive little bitch. Not her, you. So you got to ask yourself, what's the point of that statement, right? Well, if it was just to test his response to that, you would have something in there. You would have you have to have the meat and the bait, right? Call him a little bitch and then bring up something useful. And then you see which part of it he responds to. Is he responding to the little bitch part, or is he responding to the actionable part? In that case, there's no actionable part. So it's just standard Redditor fucking anger, right? The guy ends up responding to it by just like asking for more validation, right? Any attention is good attention. Right there, that lets you know this guy literally is here to waste everybody's time. I want as much time and attention as I can, and as long as you're talking to me, it'll feel like a real friend. So at that point, you got to ask yourself, what is it you're getting out of this institution, out of this interaction? Sorry, Cal, thank you for the US $5 super chat. Yeah, I still go back and rewatch your old videos because they're still extremely helpful. Thank you, sir. I do want to go back. Everything before the SMB mic, I almost want to redo the audio too, because it's just so much cleaner with this mic, you know? So yeah, so when you're not switched on, you freak out at the guy. You think, yeah, the red pill guys are mean and harsh. I'm going to be mean and harsh, and it'll totally fix it. And you're like, no. Then the guy just like asks for more information, gives you his story. Some asshole on here. This sub has become who can hate you the most. No advice or help given. Because the guy thinks like, aren't you guys supposed to be here to help? It's like, no, we're not here to help. But read the room. And so he goes through this fucking thing forever. He argues with them for like 20 posts. And I'm just realizing this must have taken an hour out of his time. So you wasted 60 minutes on a guy who can't fuck his wife, who doesn't want to try to fuck his wife, and is sitting here asking for more from you. This is actually one where I stepped in. I don't talk much on the subreddits, but like, why are you just shitting on him without value of anything to anybody, including you? No value to you, no value to him. And here's the funny part. This is where you expose guys who think they're red-pilled, but they're really not. Again, this is a bit of a gentler touch. You should have started with like, hey, you stupid bitch, why are you just shitting on him instead of offering anything of value to you or to him? See which one he responds to. But in this case, yeah, it does the perfect thing. When you tell a guy he's acting unattractive and you ask him why, if he has frame, his response, he'll have a deliberate reason why he's doing it, right? It may be a good reason, it may be a bad reason, he's his only judge, whatever. We can argue about that, put that aside for now. If the first thought is to start talking about what the other person did, then you're talking to a guy with no frame. Again, don't red pill your friends, read the room. This guy's trying to red pill some stranger on the internet, has no idea what he's doing, because as soon as he's pushed and asked to justify why he's acting the way he is, well, that guy's being a little bitch. Therefore, I'm in the right to call him a little bitch. And all he's done is wasted everybody's time. I mean, mostly his own time. And it's not anybody else's fault. Everybody's just doing what they do. You can only be responsible for you. So, like, that's for me. What's he doing here? He's wasting my time now. Because, like, there, I'm putting it very clearly out, like, asking him, is this a covert contract, in a subtle way? And he's like, yeah, but that guy's being a bitch. That guy's doing this. That guy's doing this. So I'm like, all right, why do you care? Why take the time to call him names when you know there's no hope? And he's like, not everybody's. You're assuming there's no hope. I'm like, yeah, you miss it. There is no hope. You've flat out said he's been doing this for 6 years and hasn't changed anything. You just miss what I'm saying. And I'm like, it's a covert contract. The guy is, I'm not following it at all. So I had to spell it out with more like obvious language. He goes, oh yeah, I stopped thinking about red pill lingo a long time ago. I'm like, yeah, I can tell. But here's the thing. That's most guys. I don't care who you are. You might be switched on. You, Cal, MK, Jikzu, Marty, Brandon, you guys might be switched on. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about the vast majority of guys who think they're switched on and aren't. Vast majority. I'm talking 90th percentile not switched on. They will sit here and they will argue all day. Like, do you know why I have such a huge problem with that fresh and fit model of bring on some OnlyFans hookers and then kick them off your show to teach them respect and how to keep the dime between your knees like your mother told you? And damn you, ho, why can't you be nice? Why do you have to look so much like my ex-wife, that bitch? That's why I hate it. It's guys pretending to be red-pilled. It's guys pretending to have frame while having no frame. And they're basically cannibalizing the carcass of what is otherwise a very good set of principles, heuristics, mental models, and field reports to make a quick buck. So, and I can't fault them for it. It's like, whatever. Nobody can stop them, and they're doing it. They make their money. Doesn't mean I have to like it, though. And it doesn't mean I don't have to explain to people who are worth it why. You know? Now, I don't expect anything to come of it. People aren't going to leave watching, Sam Adams or what the guy... Who's Black Jordan Peterson again? Nobody's going to leave that guy just because I gave a convincing argument to it. But some will. The some that are worth it. And for those guys, great. Here's some better stuff. Here's the actual stuff. Help yourself. For the ones that don't, fuck them. They do what they do. Hopefully, you're paying for a McLaren for a guy. I think it's well enough. But again, that's a read the room thing. You have to be aware. Anytime you talk about a heuristic, a red-pilled or otherwise heuristic, most people are going to waste your fucking time. And you just need to be okay with that going in. And then understanding that, you have to understand, okay, so what is it that I can get out of this? Again, there's tons of reasons. You can sit here arguing with a retard. The only one that you can't really use is because maybe I'll persuade him. Now, articulate it for your own thoughts so you know what you're doing. Use this to appeal to other people who may be on the fence, who are watching this. And, you're bored and want to have fun, fuck around. But then don't call yourself red pill. It's not really a frame thing. NPC, thank you for the £5 super chat. There is people I know who could really benefit from it. If I do it, it'll probably blow up on my face. No good deed goes unpunished. And that's what I'm going to get to with the third one. Take a bit of a break, and then I'll get to the third reason. You guys are going to love this one. But yeah, and that's the thing. Like a lot of people would benefit from it, dude. I'm not saying red pill is some ideological cult thing. Like, no. Just fuck off. It's none of that shit. It's not my fault you're in a cult and you think everything's a cult. It's not my call. It's just guys swapping notes. Guys saying, hey, I tried some shit, it worked for me. Hey, I tried the same shit, this worked better. Yeah. And I will say this. Aaron absolutely nails it. It's not a jealousy thing, by the way. I don't really care one way or the other. It is a fascinating thing, though. Fresh and Fit is entertainment for young guys pissed off that they're not fucking. And if you don't think that's true, ask yourself this. Isn't their most popular show on, like, Friday night? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't watch it, so I don't know. But if I'm not mistaken, Friday night is when they have their big live stream where they bring on the hoes from the bar and they yell at them and kick them out, right? Oh, guys are jumping on me? Nice. Jump on this dick, nuts. Yeah, so like Friday night. So what should you be doing? If you're a single guy trying to get laid on a Friday night, you don't have to work until Monday. That's your prime hunt night. Friday night and Saturday night. Those are the 2 nights a week. If you have a normal job and normal things, like that's my time to go chase and meet some girls and make contacts. So why is it you're watching a podcast at that time, live, a live podcast on guys that are like simulating what it is? It's like, actually, you know what it reminds me of? And this is going to be such a 90s reference. Do you remember back when porn came in magazines? I do. Easy Rider, Playboy, Penthouse, Cherry, all those ones. You used to buy those at stores, but they were so worried. They're like, man, kids are going to start reading this, and kids are going to see porn, and then life's going to be ruined. So they had to take those magazines, and they had to wrap them in plastic. You had to take them up to the thing, buy it, and then you can open the plastic, then you can read it. They wouldn't let you unless you were 18, though, so you couldn't do it. Oops. Oh, that was cute, that one guy. He's jealous he didn't get invited to Fresh and Fit. Dude, they don't want me on there. I don't want on there. I would be the most boring guest ever. All I would ever do is just sit there and act charming and reasonable and make the most boring video. No, I do not want on it. In fact, when he used to bitch about getting kicked out of the Rule Zero, I was probably one of like the cheerleaders on like, no, this does not fit too well. It is a genius model. Anyways, what was I getting to here? Oh, yeah, the porn magazines. So what it reminds me of is this is when, what'd they call it? There was a British one, and I can't remember what the British one was called, but for everybody else, it was called Maxim Magazine. Do you guys remember Maxim? So Maxim Magazine was like the PG-13 version of Playboy. Like, there was chicks in there, but they had bikinis on. But you didn't have to have plastic wrap on it at the store. So kids can look at it like, oh my God, this is like reading Playboy. This is awesome. But it's not. All it is advertisements for cologne and Red Bull, which was new at the time. And, oh, look at these hot chicks. I can't see any nipples, but really close. That's a wet t-shirt. That's awesome. Oh, so it was Maxim. I just remember there was another one like FNP or something like that. But you would have been great on Beauty Ask Beast. Yeah, it's like in that one too. I remember you talked about that before. I just didn't know what I could offer on it at all of use. So who knows? FHM, thank you very much. Yeah. So when I watch that, and I realize, because this is one of those things where like if something old is new again. Nobody's ever that creative. Nothing's new. It's Fresh and Fit is Maxim Magazine to what Pornhub is for like Playboy of the 90s. It's a very good niche. It's very very creative. To be fair, I don't know. This is always like the same reason when I talk why I don't like the format. Everybody's like, oh, he's the hardest working guy ever. He's always hustling. I'm like, I expect him to. Work ethic's never been my issue with the thing. The guys themselves have never been my issue with the thing. The issue with the thing is that they're biting my shit. They're not red pill. Just call yourself whatever. Do what you want. What is that? That heroin movie with Denzel Washington. Call it Blue Diamonds. I don't give a fuck. Stomp it if you want to. Just don't use my shit. But from an audience perspective, that's what I'm more focused on. Like for you guys, what is it for you? What does this do for you? And most guys, they can watch it and they're like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, you're yelling at each other. And then you get over it real quick. Like, I can't judge. I used to watch Jerry Springer in college all the time. I'm like, dude, this is the part where the redneck finds out his wife slept with somebody else and he's about to fight. Oh, this is awesome. Then you get up, go to school, do your thing. I will say this, though. I didn't accomplish much in university, so I wouldn't recommend it, but I get it. But from an audience perspective, again, that's the problem. Again, with the reading the room and that is a lot of guys will watch this stuff and think they know what they're doing. And like, oh, I got it because, he quoted Rational Male 3 times. Like, yeah, but he didn't exemplify any of it. That's why I always enjoy, like, our very first episode of Rule Zero was on Jordan Peterson, which we have a lot. And it wasn't so much like, I don't care much for Jordan Peterson's, like, his lessons, his message that he's given out. At least after he did the whole Bill C-10 thing. I liked it before then, back when he was talking about, psychology. He was literally doing like what I do with Mids Watches, but his psychology lectures. It's pretty awesome. My divorce was like an episode of Jerry Springer. When are they not, Pepe? When are they not? Oh, look at this. Okay, I don't know who invited the autism in the chat, but you got to stop that. Yeah, I think this may be one of the best channels. There's just so much content to keep up with now. And the worst part, Core 96, is that there's not a lot. Like I actually have like a roadmap, if you guys would believe this. Like I could tell you there's going to be about 84 episodes of Mids Watch. And the Sidebar series has about another 20 different series to it. Various episodes. I don't know how long the episodes are. It depends. Once I do them, I'll know for sure. But then that's going to be maybe 2 more years of content, and then it's basically done. There's nothing new to the Red Pill I can teach and show you guys, and so I'll have to make a shift at that point. But yeah, Red Pill's never been particularly a wide pool of knowledge. It's a very, very narrow, but it runs really deep. So it's kind of interesting. Where was I going with this one before we get to the next reason? Oh, yeah, the Peterson one. I find the meta lessons are absolutely fascinating. I'm going to mention Jordan Peterson and Jack Murphy on this one. Although I haven't kept up with what he's doing lately, so I could be mistaken, and you guys might have some new stuff for me. Cal, before we get started, thank you again. US $10 super chat. I gotta admit, I'll take Kevin Samuels over Fresh and Fit. At least he has a classy presentation and has useful breakdowns of arguments and conversations. Plus, his advice for men is helpful. Yeah, see, I heard... And I think he runs into the problem that a lot of content creators have, is that they start to let the audience, like they let the tail wag the dog when it comes to content. From what I understand, he used to be all about like how to dress well, how to act right, shit like that. Very good advice. But then he noticed that you get a lot more views shitting on chicks online, and he's kind of pivoted towards that, as best I can tell. But to me, he's always going to be a bargain basement Tony Sotomayor. He was the one that I used to watch back in the day. I still remember his video on when he moved to Arizona into a white neighborhood, and he was like, I'm not going to lie. The way these white folk have treated me here, I really like white people. He's like, I love living in a white neighborhood. Everybody here is awesome. I haven't had to deal with any of this ghetto shit. And I just started laughing. I'm like, oh, that's not coming. Somebody's making a play for a Prager University thing. Derek L., $20 super chat. I tried red pilling a couple friends and coworkers for years. Ultimately, a waste of effort. So no interest in being a red pill Jehovah's Witness. And I asked, I wouldn't refer to decent content, but no interest in door knocking. But you see what I mean? By the way, absolutely right, Derek. You can't be red-pilled unless you have rational self-egoism. I think that's the closest that it comes to a philosophy. Rational egoism. What's in it for me? And Derek absolutely not only said a very true statement and a very useful statement, but it's like the framing of it lets you know, like, red pill to a T. You see what he said there? It's not that he tried red-pilling friends and they did this and they did that and them. He's like, I tried red-pilling friends, and it was a waste of my effort. See what I mean? That's how you approach things. What's in it for me? A waste of my time. These guys are not worth my time, and so I am no longer going to waste my time on people who do not value it. He's treating himself like the prize. And it's a weird thing. Everybody thinks acting like you're the prize means you got to be a cocky, funny asshole, and that's part of it, yes. But in this case, it's like, no. Everything you do has value. You have to internalize that. You have to believe that. You have to understand that. And you have to act in such a way to make that true in whatever way it matters to you. In this case, it's, yeah, I could help you. Are you going to do anything about it, though? No? Well, then I'm not going to help you. I love you, brother. I'll be at your wedding. I'll be at your divorce settlement. But yeah, you care about people as much as they care about themselves. And Derek, I couldn't have put it any better. But the meta lesson. So you watch Peterson think, right? You know, and that was this new thing where he talked about the maps of meaning and the Jesus parable and the clean your room. Hated communism. But then what's happening in the background? His daughter is kind of like, oh, wow, dad's famous. I better jump on this stuff. And he kind of, you know, I love my daughter, so why wouldn't I treat her well? But she kind of, I don't know. Let's just say it probably hasn't been the best for him on a personal level to let his girl invest in his brand in the way she has, which, you know, you got to do what you got to do. It's not like he's, I don't know. He just hasn't seemed like been himself lately. And I think he let that stuff get to him. But that's the kind of the red-pilled lesson he could have taken from it. But then you watch, you know, clean your room before you try to save the world. But then you're also watching him give these giant lectures across North America. Meanwhile, his daughter's having a struggling marriage. He has problems with his wife. And in order to deal with it, he had to take whatever those pills were that he was taking. Not saying this to judge. It's like, whatever. Everybody hits hard times. I'm not going to judge for that. But I will say is it's like, if the advice is so good, why didn't you take it? You know, put this bucket on your head right now. If 12 Rules for Life really was really good, then he would have applied it himself. And I'm not saying that life would have been perfect had he done, cleaned his room and whatever. But did he even try? And also, that's the same kind of lens I look at everything. Even though everybody's like, why are you so mad at him? He's part of the solution. I'm like, yes, don't get me wrong. I would rather have Jordan Peterson there than not there. He's definitely moving the needle in the right direction insofar as like positive male identity. We can disagree on whatever, but we can't argue that we're not on, I hate using the term, but I can't think of a better way to phrase it, on the same team, Like he means well, he's doing better, and I would rather, having him gone would be worse than having him not gone. But at the same time, would I put that bucket on my head? Probably not. And that's kind of how I look at other creators. And that's why I probably don't want to do big collabs with brands moving forward. I know we'll see. Other than Rolo and the Rule Zero guys, because I just like the guys. Rolo, Rich, I've always got time for them. If they ever need me on for whatever reason, Aaron, all of them. I'm like, yep, whatever you guys need. I don't care about pushing merch. I don't even, like when John has me in his collabs, I don't even bring up the shit. Because I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's just have some fun. Peterson really seems to be trad light to me. Oh, he absolutely has a lot of those mental models, but that's kind of like beside the point of this cast. So I was playing like, yes, not wrong. Not wrong, Cal. Thank you for the $5 super chat. You're not wrong. But again, don't listen to what he says. Watch what he does. Can you learn from that? And there's a lot of guys you can learn from. Like, that's the one thing, and I'm actually surprised Rolo doesn't bring it up more when they bring him up the flagpole for this. they're always ringing him up the flagpole. You notice that? I want to find this flagpole they keep throwing Rolo up here. Somebody do a meme of that. Who's good at Photoshop? Put Rolo at the top of a flagpole at half mast or something. And they're like, yeah, he'll talk a lot about sexual dynamics, about hypergamy, a lot about this, a lot about that. He has first year stuff. Can't love you the way you want to be loved. Then you look at his bucket. What's he got? He's got a pretty good family. Daughter just graduated. Decent looking person, decent looking girl. Has a head on her shoulders. Doesn't seem to be into crack or anything stupid like that. Wife, absolutely charming, wonderful woman. He's got a nice life. He's got his hobbies. He plays his guitar. He runs his snowmobile. Goes fishing. He's basically more trad than trad. And it's like, so yeah, and it's not the way to decide if you want to follow the stuff that, RedPill is talking about, but like, his example's not bad. Like, you could do a lot worse than that, or even my example. I'm basically Rolo minus 15 years, I think. I'd have to do the math, whatever. But yeah, I don't know, sitting there, nice place, military career, didn't end on the best of terms, but hey, what? Nope. If things were well, they wouldn't have ended. Decent corporate career, doing this stuff, author. I just keep doing more things. It's like 1% of Joe Rogan. But whatever. I'm not here to talk about. I'm just saying, like, yeah. So when I tell you something and I use some stories and what's in, you're like, yeah, you could have a worse bucket on your head if you want. Rich, same thing. It's not to say there's not hardships, not bad things that happen. Of course they happen. But it's like, how does the guy deal with them? How does he grow from them? How does he improve from them? And then the last part about the bucket on your head is the Jack Murphy one. I just was amazed that because he was like a regular on Tim Pool for a while, which great brand move, by the way. Tim Pool's like the new shining star of YouTube conservatism, which is weird because he's not. He's a Vice reporter. Back then, his whole thing was like, can I do drugs in war-torn countries and film it for a news report? Let's do it. Bringing up his divorce and that weaponized kids against him. I can't take my kid to the basketball game. Couldn't even admit to himself or his audience that basically they're his wife's kids. They're not his. That's how it works. If you guys don't know, there's the red pilled lesson. I really want to do an episode on this, but it's not going to be very likable. Where I say like a big red pill lesson is you don't get to have kids. They're her kids. And they are, for the most part. I mean, there's things you can do about it, but as a mental model, you have to understand that. So he doesn't get to decide whether the kids will get vaccinated. He got into a big fight over that. And I was just like, you can't, I mean, I guess he doesn't tell himself he's red-pilled anymore because it's not a good brand pivot. He wants to go trad, but like the first thing you got to do is be honest. You can't bullshit yourself. They aren't your kids. They're her kids. She decides, you have no control over it. So you can play it off like, well, it's technically, we can't think about, they can't go to baseball if we don't do this. We did the pros. Like, we didn't do anything. You're turning your necessity into a virtue. Brett the Bachelor, by the way, US $20 super chat. And even though it's a tiny little icon I can barely see on this thing here, is that your girlfriend or wife or whatever? She's got a nice set of knockers on her. You did good, my friend. Oh, that's probably the girl then. She moved in 4 months ago. Before she moved in, I cooked and cleaned my house. I still do, it's just habit, so why do I feel like I'm turning into a house husband? How do I hold my girl accountable when I do everything? You're not. First off, you can't hold your girl accountable. The only thing you can do is hold expectations. So let me ask you this. Does she do nothing? Because I don't care how much you clean. Somebody can always tidy up. You know, after dinner, does she grab the plates? Does she bring them in? Like, you have a house that's up to your standard, and that's the way it should be. That's most guys, the advice that you give for them when they're first starting out on their like male action plan is act like your wife was dead, run your house the way you want it run. And then the idea is you become more attractive, you build up your SMV, you know, with the workouts, be attractive, don't be unattractive. And then the wife will either realize that she's being left behind and start picking up the slack and meeting her expectations or not. In your case, you're already switched on. And so it's just the easiest way to like articulate this, and it's going to be kind of vague. I get it. So you're going to have to map this to your own life, but you'll get what I'm saying here. One sec. When you're sitting there, you keep your house to the standards you like. You just got to look over it. Like, what value are you offering me? If you can't give an answer to that, well, then that's your answer. Nothing. And don't say sex. Sex is an easy answer. Sex is the bare minimum. Look, just the fact that you're in my life means you're probably having sex with me on the regular. So if that's there, that's fine. But the rest of it is just boundaries and expectations. So let's say like you want to find out if she's clean or not. Just little things you can do. I'm sure you're busy with work. Hey, work's going to be busy for this next week. I need you to pick up the slack around the house for me because I'm not going to be able to clean or cook as much as possible. See how she reacts to that. Is it her chance to shine and show you that she really loves you and she's got your best interest at heart and she's definitely on the same team? That's great. She's going to be like, all right, I got this. Maybe she doesn't know how to cook and you have to show her some stuff. That's fine. Maybe she's not the best at cleaning to your standard and you got to show her some stuff. Maybe you get lucky. She cooks better and cleans better and you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Thanks, babe. But if you start getting the fucking riot act about it, well, I shouldn't have to do that shit. I'm boss. Like, you know, that standard shit. And I don't know which side of the thing your girl's on. It's up to you. But it kind of lets you know what you're in for. Because I'll tell you right now, things don't get better over time. There is a standard that you will have at the start. And whatever standard you set at the start is the standard that will carry through the rest of your relationship, minus a giant thing like a main event. But I would not suggest a guy put up with bullshit for 5 years just so he can start running dread just to get a main event going. That's a very horrible way of holding chicks accountable. But that's just it. Remember, it's like a captain first officer model. You're trying to establish standards, boundaries, and expectations. Just hold her to them. Let her know. You can actually talk. That's the thing. Sometimes it's good to shut the fuck up. That's like a standard red-pilled strategy. When you don't know what you're doing, shut the fuck up. You won't win, but you won't lose anything either. You're basically taking a pass on it. It's like, all right, I'll do this the next one, mull it over, see what I can do better. Quick in the main thing here. Hat and Clogs 433.4. Thank you for the US super chat. Hey, got your merch. Nice, dude. I'm glad you like it. I'm loving it right now. I'm going to be wearing this all the time on the streams. I don't have the hoodies, though, because I've never been a hoodie guy, but you guys apparently love the fucking thing, so. But yeah, so Brett, just realize now you're the captain of your ship. It's your place. She's part of your life because she's shown herself to be valuable. What can you trust her with? Start giving her some responsibilities in the house. Hey, if you want in my life, here's the expectations. You got to be able to keep it clean like I do, at least to my standard. If you want it better standard, then that's fine. If she likes her standard and it's less than yours, that's fine. You keep it clean to your standard and I'll pick up the slack. And if you're fine with that slack, then that's fine. It's like you can't negotiate desire, but you can negotiate how you live together. Logistics are very much negotiable. But for the most part, if a girl's really into you, she will do stuff without being prompted. So like, does your girl clean up when you sleep in? When you're off at work, does she tidy up? Does she make the place, here's a better question, does she make the place worse otherwise? And these are all very obvious questions. Like, you should already kind of know the answer to it just as I'm saying it. The hard part for guys comes with, well, what do you do when you have the information? When she's established that, let's say, for example, she doesn't meet your standards. And when you bring up your standards and your expectations, she gives you grief, tries her 5 manipulative techniques. There's anger, ego, shame, playing wounded, or frame shifting. We can talk about those. It's a different episode. Basically, a whole bunch of different words that they use to try and get you to stop doing what you're doing. Manipulation. If that's what you get in return, then just realize she doesn't want to do this stuff. She's not invested enough, or she doesn't respect your boundaries enough. In which case, enforce your boundaries. What can you do? Pull your attention, pull your affection, pull your commitment. Well, how much of one or the other do you do? Well, that's up to you. How bad a digression is it? If she sleeps with the neighbor, well, yeah, you're probably going to pull your commitment 100%, and that's the end of it. If she's just really bratty one day when you're feeling sick, then yeah, maybe it's just pull your affection. I don't feel like being affectionate with you. And it's eventually it comes naturally, but at first you kind of have to force it a bit. But after a while, you kind of get, and this is going to be the weirdest thing to say from a guy's perspective, but you get in touch with your feelings. You haven't slept together in 4 days and you're used to having it every day or something like that. You're probably going to be a fairly bit cranky. And you realize why you're cranky. I'm cranky because I haven't had sex in 4 days. And so you just don't feel very affectionate. You don't feel very, committed. And maybe you want to go out and cheat on her or whatever. Or maybe you're just like, yeah, I'm not going to rub your back tonight or shit like that, right? It's not tit for tat. It's just, you're just being honest with how you feel as a man. And I know that's a weird way to say it. It's like, who cares about your feelings? I'm like, well, in this case, your feelings do tell you things too, right? I feel hungry. Well, it's probably because you haven't eaten. Well, I feel irritated and angry. Well, it's probably because you haven't been laid in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Who's hosting Rule Zero? I think it's Clary because I saw his very fancy thumbnail. Yeah, listen to the gut quote. So I'm putting this as its own thing here with expectations and a move-in girlfriend. I might even make this one a little clip. But back to the topic at hand. What is he talking about? 111200. Another reason you shouldn't try to red pill your friends, and this is the Jack 10 reason. There's going to be a mids watch episode on this. I think you're going to like it. Burnout. 137. It turns out dragging a bunch of people to happiness, kicking and screaming while they fight you every step of the way is tiresome. It's fucking tiresome, man. It is. It really is. There's days where I get up and I have to do editing for the week, and I look at this, I'm just not feeling it. And this is a very slow schedule insofar as red pilling your friends goes. I imagine psychologists who have to do this every day, 5 times a day, 40 hours a week. That's gotta be fucking. If you guys haven't read Dante's last comment here, I'm going to suggest you do. Can I pin this? Yeah, there we go. Pin your message. In fact, we're going to pin. I keep forgetting that there's. Can you only pin one? Oh, you can only pin one. That sucks. I thought there was this thing where I can make put pins in them. So as you're reading through, it'll be one that stays there for a little longer, but I guess not. Yeah, so Jack 10 and I, we had our tiffs over the years, which was kind of fun. I liked them, but he didn't like them so much. He always took the approach that a hammer isn't the best tool. I'd rather have a scalpel. He's like, I learned this shit A/B testing. He called himself socially autistic who learned to be social by A/B testing. And I was like, how fun is that? And he said, I was socially outgoing or whatever, non-autistic. The idea with me is he said, I guess he was essentially I was more feelings based and he was not. But here's the thing. Every time you would have a field report with a guy coming in, Jack would give you a 5,000 word essay breaking down, this is your problem. This is the part that you're not seeing about it. This is why. Here's an allegory to let you understand it from a term that maybe is more male friendly, which oftentimes it was work references, like how a boss would deal with an employee. And then he would bring a personal story if he had one, and then a way ahead. And it was very well thought out. It was very long. Everybody thought it was very appreciative, and it was great. Meanwhile, guys like One More Please and me would be get on the sidebar, come back in 3 months, show me if you've lifted weights or not, and have you read the books. Otherwise, just get the fuck out of my face. Jack used to get mad because one guy was talking about his girl was threatening suicide or something like that, right? He goes, well, if you hadn't dismissed him so summarily, you'd have find out this is suicide and it's a big deal. And I'm going, some stranger just throws out that attention bait, expecting me to change everything. I'm like, no. Your life's not my problem. Like, there's the suicide hotline. Everybody knows that. It's always the socially acceptable thing to do. Here's your suicide hotline. Make sure you read that. Just know people care. Nobody really cares. They're just covering their ass. And I'm like, if she really wanted to, she would do it. And I don't mean that to be flippant about it. I'm just saying people who want to end it, end it. People who want attention and validation, and yeah, I get it. They're in pain. They need a helping hand. Great. But so many guys are put into this weird situation that they're like, I'm afraid to leave my girl because once I do, she's going to be in the bathtub. You know what I mean? Bathtub with the toaster. And it's essentially like a hostage situation. So like, let's take this very serious thing. How do you survive around that? When somebody's basically using your own concern over human life against you like that. And it's like, yeah, same as everybody else. Stop letting yourself be manipulated. Start taking your own life in your hands. If she does try something, then yeah, it's a problem for tomorrow to deal with. But today, the problem is she really wants your attention and she's doing all kinds of crazy shit to get it, which means you're putting her in a position because you're actually starting to look in your own self-interests. So why don't you just let them know a more positive way to keep your attention? It's like, look, you don't have to do this stuff. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to come back. Keep your shit together. Whatever you're thinking right now is completely irrational. I'll be here when you get back. And then at some point, if they refuse to change their ways, then yeah, get them committed. It's like, look, I can't be your guardian angel. I'm very sorry. And just be gone with it. So that was a very serious one. And I kind of paraphrased it here. There's going to be a much more articulate mids watch about it coming up later. But take this and iterate this hundreds of times. I can say, like, the mids watch is a lot of Jack stuff. There's at least 84 of his giant essays in there. You can almost write a book on it. 330 words. I've done the math on it. If some themes come out, and they're all, like, we generally agree. It's the same themes that anybody else would have in the Red Pill. The only difference is how he articulates them. So, add some years onto this. 2 years of that, 500, 1,000 words or whatever. And he burns out. He's like, oh, I'm tired of doing these things. So much of it. At that point, I'm like, I'm going to start a YouTube. I'm going strong. And it's just, by not red pilling your friends, you're in it for the long haul. Does that make sense? Like, you don't do things unless there's a benefit for you. You don't burn out because there's always a good feedback loop, a feedback mechanism. You could sit here red pilling your friends for fucking ever, and every single one of them fights you, and half the guys didn't bother listening. The other half thanked you for it and ignored it roundly. Maybe 10% actually did something about it. That's great. But with that kind of rate, that starts to wear down on you, dude. It does. And then you realize, like, you've devoted hundreds and hundreds of hours to this. And you've gotten so little in return, you're like, what the fuck's the point? You want to talk about how Red Pill makes you nihilistic? That's the part that makes you nihilistic. Existentially nihilistic. These guys just don't want to be helped. And you eventually burn out. And he eventually left and did his thing. It's not even the PC culture. To be fair, like, John lives in, like, San Francisco, just like San Jose, right beside San Francisco. He's like, I'm there. I don't see any of this soy shit. So remember, when you see online this PC culture thing, this is largely a small, loud, vocal, niche segment of the population with an inadvertent amount of media attention to it. Because it gets everybody's attention. Because generally speaking, everybody hates PC culture. I'm in Toronto. That's like the San Francisco of Canada, basically. Meanwhile, like just last night, I go to a comedy show, hundreds of people sitting in the crowd, hearing the most un-PC things ever, laughing, clapping, and cheering. Like, most people don't give a fuck. They just don't. So just remember that when you watch and the news gives you this idea of hell in a handbasket, and I'm probably as guilty as anybody, you always have to ask yourself, is this reality? Or is this an abstraction of reality? Am I looking at Plato's cave, or am I looking at, the sunshine outside? Part I like about the Red Pill, though, is that it's very practical. So there's always a touch grass element to it. You can't be delusional. I mean, you'll try. A lot of people try to be delusional about it. And that's where you get that whole MGTOW 2.0 shit, or the second wave MGTOW, where it's like the chicks will leave you. Hypergamy means this and that. You're like, shut up. Talk to a girl. Get back to me. But yeah, you don't want to burn out. And I think that would be the worst thing. Imagine this. You're some switched on, red-pilled guy. You're making more money. You've got better success with women. You got a positive identity. You got the unhealthy narcissism. You got a good sense of rational egoism. You're on top of the world. Everybody around you's acting nicer. You're acting better. Everything's good. Your whole community loves you for it. Now imagine you tried so hard to give that to everybody else that you burn out, and just go back to your old ways. It's like, how much good did you just do there? You essentially just sabotaged yourself by trying to be a martyr. Jesus nailed himself to the cross. He came back 3 days later. Don't nail yourself to the cross and then not come back. You know what I mean? Is Red Pill aware, Red Pill light, PH? Funny how you put that way. Red Pill aware isn't actually red pilled or aware. That's a mocking term that Red Pill guys use, because we noticed that everybody, when they would start with their Batman origin stories, that's their little like, why I'm doing what I'm doing and why it doesn't mean I'm a beta cuck or whatever the hell they want to say, or all that dumb shit. And they'd always say, I'm Red Pill aware. And then when you dig down into it, so what does that mean? Like, what are you aware of? And they're like, well, I watched an episode of Rule Zero, and I love how I shit on my own fucking podcast on my other podcast. Fuck those guys. Well, one guy's like, I'm about to buy No More Mr. Nice Guy, and I've watched 2 episodes of Red Man Group or something like that. And you're like, so that's basically a nonsensical statement. Red Pill aware is the guy who wants to be part of like the Red Pill He-Man Woman Haters Club, but he doesn't want to do anything to get in there. It's literally saying, I have done fucking nothing, but I still want to wear the branding, which I think is stupid at its face. Because one, if you're going to brand yourself to something, Red Pill has got to be the least attractive one to brand yourself to. I still kick myself in the ass every day for bringing this shit up. My friends and family poke fun at me. Actually, my mom watches these. She's probably watching this one right now. She always sends me texts. Oh, you seem so casual and well-spoken. You're doing good. I love you, son. I'm like, aw. My brother right now, he's like, I'll watch your stuff. And every now and then you bring up a story of me. And I'm like, hey, you're not supposed to tell anybody. And I just laugh. My military buddies, they'll come and visit me. It's like, hey, you still talking about that shit you read in a book? I'm like, fuck you. Yeah, they poke fun, man. And they should. This is like unattractive, weirdo shit. So just keep that in mind, too. I could just watch beach muscles all day long. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Yeah, kind of like spiritual, but not religious. Absolutely. Hey, no worries, warrior. You keep watching. I'll keep creating, right? So that's the other thing. So like to sum up, you don't want to red pill your friends. There's 3 main reasons. 1, you're not good enough yet. 2, you didn't read the room well. And 3, you'll burn out. That's what we're saying. Now, how do you know if that's advice you should follow? Like, we're going to end it off with, all right, what we got here? 121. Actually, 122.00. Positive something. Let's end it on a positive note. Well, what do you do with this information? Because at the end of the day, if you don't do anything with it, then what's the fucking point? This has been a waste of 2 hours of your time, and I'm glad you're wasting it with me, but it's still a waste. So what do you do with this information? Well, you treat that heuristic the way you treat any heuristic. Use it until it's no longer useful. AWOLT. All women are like that. Are all women actually like that? Do they always act like that? Is it a 100% true thing? It's like, no. But when you keep that in your mind, like all guns are loaded, treat all guns as if they're loaded. When one's not loaded, when a girl is not acting in her own best interest at the expense of yours, then you can make an exception. But you know that because you've been looking for every reason for her. Here's every reason you're going to be a thought that should be kicked off of the Fresh and Fit podcast. Every single one. And you haven't done any of it. So a lot of guys are asking, how do I know if a girl's invested? Well, there's an example right there. All of your boundaries, has she respected every one of them? I'd argue, too, for a lot of guys who ask, how do I get a girlfriend? I'm like, that's how you do it. First off, you don't want it. You don't want the girlfriend. You look for any reason on earth to kick her out of your life. And if after a length of time she doesn't give you any, well, then you've just found a girl invested. And now if you want one, there you go. Brett, another $20 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Something that worked for me. My girl is bi. I let her date other girls. She was going on dates multiple times a week. The sex fell to once a week. So I got a plate. Told my girl it worked. Plenty of sex same then. So yeah, like, so there's 2 things to this. One is good and one is bad, Brett. The good thing to it is you understand the concept of dread, having options. Now you're kind of going like a poly thing, which is out of my expertise, but that's not what we're going at here. I'm not talking about like, is that a good way or a bad way? But you understand that as you have options, you're more attractive. Girls don't want a kept man. They want a man that they have to fight for. They want a guy who's always got one foot out of the door. They want a guy who's got options. Like, imagine that. Like, I have this great supercar and everybody wants to drive it. And everybody would buy it from me. And if I sell it, I'll sell it in like 5 minutes. You're probably going to love that car. But if you're like, This is a great supercar, and I can't fucking unload the thing. Nobody wants it at all. You're probably not going to like it as much, right? It's the same thing. Girls like when they have something other people want. And when we talk about how people fuck up red pill stuff, like, you know, the whole women, the most responsible teenager in the house, which has since transformed into women or children thing. Here's where that originally came from. There was 2 parts from it. I'll just talk about the second for this. It's where it was, there's an old Simpsons episode where Bart couldn't figure out, he was interested in this girl, but like the more she didn't want him or something like that, the more he was into her. And Lisa's like, look, see how Maggie has that ball in her crib and she doesn't want it? Well, watch this. And she takes away the ball, and now Maggie wants the ball. She's like, see, now that she can't have it, now she wants it. And Bart's like, give me the ball, give me the ball. It's the same thing here. That's pre-selection. Now, the part that you're not going to want to hear about this is you're very, very outcome dependent. I would suggest, actually, Brett, get a chance, watch my outcome dependence video. Outcome independence versus outcome dependence. It just came out. So what's the plan then over the long term? Like I said, you guys have been together 4 months. You just moved in. That's fine. Every time sex dries off, are you going to have to go get another plate? See how that has, it's very outcome dependent. So why are you getting a plate? Well, teach that bitch a lesson. Hold her accountable, right? I'm not saying it doesn't work, but you're not going to be able to keep that up for 20 years or 10 years. Now, if it's just this thing has a shelf life, and if you're not getting your needs met with her, you go needs met elsewhere, that's fine. But you have to be outcome independent, because otherwise girls blow that shit up, because they can tell when you're trying to overtly manipulate them like this. Maybe not right away, but they eventually do it because they test boundaries. That's how they do it. Eventually you're going to get to a point where it's not going to work. And then what do you do? That's where a lot of guys have like a freak out moment because they don't know what to do with this information. But yeah, it's like, dude, if you got a bi girl, she goes, dates a bunch of girls, comes home, sleeps with you, that's fine. So you go do your thing. She goes, does her thing. You set your boundaries. If she crosses your boundaries, she's out on the curb, right? You just can't make your actions dependent on her. It's not an if then else. Because that's the problem, is that once you put the responsibility onto her for how you act, a girl will fuck it up. They always will, because they don't like the responsibility. Girls hate the idea that something goes wrong and it's their fault. So by acting dependent on her actions, you're putting that thought into a person's head and they will blow it up. But again, and this is just like a semantic thing. You may have worded it badly and you already know what I'm talking about. That's up to you. Parse this as you see fit. If this is just a case, and I can only know by the way you write it. So if you could say the same thing that you just said here. Yeah, my girl's bi. She dates other girls. I got no problem. Just no dudes. And I don't know. I sleep around, but only if I'm not getting enough sex at home. But you see what I mean? Like, it takes the dependence out of the thing. You're just like, I have a want. I meet my wants. He has first crack at my libido, not sole custody. Same actions, completely different framing. One has frame, one has not frame. Like I said, parse it for yourself to see if it applies to you or not applies to you. And that's great. Can work. But it's also, and here's the problem, or here's the reason why that's a good solution, is because you going out and getting another plate because she's not meeting your needs isn't contingent on her needing your needs. Let's say she decides not to, or let's say she gets mad about it, or let's say she's got feelings for Becky and she doesn't respond to this the way you expect. Doesn't matter to you. If you continue to not get your needs met with her, you go get your needs met with somebody else. And then they find out, and you remember what I said to you before about, like, look into your life and see if there's value. If there's value that she provides. Well, like, put it this way. You said you cook, you said you clean. What does she offer? Well, she's not cooking, she's not cleaning, and she's not having sex on a frequency I like. Like, you see what I mean? Like, the list of reasons to keep her around are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But by framing it in like a what's in it for me way, you're able to see that. If you're just doing it like, oh, she stopped putting out, I'm going to go get another girl, then you're not looking at it that way. And so you stop looking at it as a value proposition. You start looking at it as a weird game of cat and mouse. And let's say it doesn't work. I go get a new plate, and now she doesn't have the pre-selection. She doesn't have the dread. She doesn't want to sleep with me again. So what do? You generally do what other people do. It worked before. I'm just going to do it more. Then you get another plate and another plate. You keep doing more, expecting it to work this time. It's just a downward spiral. It never ends well. But again, same thing, different framing makes all the difference in the world. And the only thing I got to go on is how you chose to write it down, right? It's something that's the reason I love field reports, by the way. When a guy writes things down, it lets you know his framing of the situation, what details he considers important, and who the protagonist is in his story. And like, I love this one. Even just 2 sentences here in this $20 super chat. Thank you very much. He is focused on himself. That's good. The reactive, outcome dependent thing, not as good. Now, maybe he's not, but did he ever think of it that way? Anyways, it gets a guy thinking. It doesn't end a conversation, it starts one. What the hell is that? Oh, red, yellow, green. Yeah. But again, you just have to accept things. We're always going to die alone. Every relationship has an end, a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's just a matter of when. Brett, appreciate it. No, man, I appreciate it. Like I said, dude, do you know what I love about you guys as an audience? I've already said I love you guys as an audience because you're not artistic, soft R artistic. That part I love. The other part I love, you've heard me talk before. Like you see Rule Zero guys, Troy and John and Rolo and Rich and all of them, they always talk about, black pill guys are running me up the flagpole and black pill this and MGTOW that. I'm like, I don't want to have a conversation about fucking with guys who don't fuck. Do you know how refreshing it is to have guys like Brett the Bachelor in here who do fuck talk about fucking? Like, the conversation completely changes from like abstract hypotheticals of shit that never happens to real shit that happens. And it's so funny because like that situation, I know for a fact, if I read through all the chat and I can't follow it, you guys are just talking too much, which is great. But I bet you there's at least 1 or 2 of you guys in the chat who call bullshit on this. You're like, that's not possible. And I laugh. I'm like, yeah, that's another guy who's not fucking. Because, like, I totally think this is possible. I know guys who have done this. I know guys who have successfully done this. I've known way more guys who have unsuccessfully done it. And I'm not fucking king dingaling. I don't have the 500 notch counts or 1,300 notch counts. Carl's got me beat, but it was mostly a time thing. I got into a relationship after, like, 8 years a game. Carl had, like, 20. So, you know what I mean? To expect sometimes notch counts are really just about time and persistence. Fluff us some more. I'll fluff you guys all day. You keep buying merch, I'll keep telling you guys are alpha males. I swear to fuck. Yeah, everybody wants the TLDR. Absolutely. But that's the problem, is that the answer isn't the red pill part. The answer sounds fucking weird. Like, for me saying the answer there was like, you know, for him, yeah, get a new plate, but just don't care if your girl leaves you over it. That makes no sense. You're like, that's the stupidest advice. Chicks will get mad. How dare you? He needs to step up and be a man. And guys will be like, that's stupid. What the fuck are you thinking? He's trying to stay with this girl. But yeah, the whole explanation, the whole process to get down there, the whole changes in your mental models, the whole changes in your actions, your motivations, that's where the value is. The answer is just fucking, well, gotta end somewhere. There's the answer. Doesn't make any difference. 1,300 notch count. I own sending love from Romania. Thank you very much, sir. I'm glad this isn't a members only comment section. Yeah, it's, to be fair, Pepe, like, it may turn that way into the future. But right now, between the awesome moderators here and just the audience itself being switched on, we don't have to. But if it starts to turn into like a, no offense to Rolo, but if it turns into like a Rolo comment section, I'll probably eventually switch to a members only, like subscribers only thing. But again, that's a tomorrow problem. If we don't need it, then I'm not going to use it. Like I said, the only issue I have here, and the only, from a content creator moderation perspective, I'm recommending it soon. The moderators are burning out, boys. Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is keeping this space focused on Rule Zero. Talk about sexual strategy, positive male identity. As soon as you start getting MGTOW, black pill, soccer mom, tradcon bullshit in here, I'm like, yeah, no. Well, free speech. It's like, yeah, free speech. But you can't go into a car forum talking about how much you hate cars and love motorbikes. Like, it's just, no. Just stay on topic. I let my LTR make my Tinder account. Really? Seems rather strange. I wonder if that's like where Royce had a great article about that way back in the day where he was like, don't let your girl dress you because she'll ug you up on purpose because she wants to keep you for herself. I wonder if your LTR makes a Tinder account. It's like, how can I put one creepy thing that scares off the chicks? She actually made it pretty good. Oh, fair enough. But that's fine. Argue with the mod, ban. Well, and like I said, I haven't given any like direction on how the place is banned. Mostly it's just guys who are switched on, and like I trust their judgment. I'm banned from Tinder. Oh, you did the dream opener, didn't you? That's a new one. Does she dress you too, bro? She makes your Tinder account. Does she buy your clothes too? How funny would that be? If your girl makes your Tinder account, you're not going to make it. That's the joke. Do you still talk to other attractive women even though you're in the LTR? Absolutely, dude. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you have to be a shut-in. Doesn't mean you have to avoid women. Like, I don't go out and run 8 hours a day game. I'm past that shit now. But yeah, if I'm out and about, I run into people, talk to guys, talk to girls. I'm naturally kind of like flirtatious. I naturally chuck shit. My natural state of being is negging. So it's like, whatever. And if I get annoyed with a girl, I don't simp over her either. But yeah, that's just who I am. But that's kind of when I hear guys like Rolo's like, I am the game. And a lot of guys like, always keep your skills up. I'm like, yeah, that's just it. I'm not out there acting like a charming guy or, insofar as I am charming. I'm not out there acting like I want to fuck everything that walks. But yeah, I have fun when I act charming. I have fun when I act social. And yeah, it's whatever. I don't see the girl getting mad about it. Why would you get mad about it? I'm not putting my dick in people, whatever. But yeah, why wouldn't you talk with people? There's no reason not to keep your social skills up, especially during COVID, because it just becomes harder to interact with people when you have to first off establish, is this person one of those I'm terrified of the world type people, which it's predominantly women. Women are terrified of COVID, more so than guys to a huge extent. Leave your room sometime, dude. Exactly. Yeah, I seriously wanted to see if she'd make me look bad. Oh, hey, you know what, Nate? We're poking fun. Don't worry about it, right? These are one of those notes, like, that's not something that comes up every day. So if you, wrote a field report on it, I would fucking ingest the shit out of it, because I would be curious where that goes and the whole dynamics behind it. If I got 20 guys to do that, I'd make it into RedPill canon. I'd add it to a book. That'd be awesome. But that's how it always works, right? Guys try things. Yeah, I remember dating several girls in my past that didn't want me working out because they liked my dad bod. It all made sense later. Yeah, it's more comfortable. It's less anxious providing. And that's the thing, too. Like, a lot of guys are afraid of their wife's emotions. And this is where I love When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith. Guys say no. They cross it. They have a boundary. The girl feels anxious. She feels bad. She starts getting emoted. And the guy feels bad about it. And he backs off. Shouldn't do that. Some shrink was on Twitter. He was talking about this research that just come out where there was a correlation between anxiety and sexual desire. And it's funny because the day game guys, Nash Day Game, used to hate these. Like, this guy just wants to make chicks like a neurotic mess. He hates women. And I'm like, a fucking idiot. So totally vindicated. It turns out anxiety comes at, or desire comes at the tail end of anxiety. It's just a natural biological thing. So like I said, those little, and you don't, like, a little goes a long way. Being a good man in a good relationship, you don't generally need a lot of it. Sometimes it's just a little. Sometimes it's just manufactured outrage. My girl gets mad enough to want to punch me some days. Well, yeah, but that helps keep the romance alive, right? Doesn't have to be negative. Doesn't have to be positive or negative feelings. Just strong feelings. And anxiety is a feeling like any other, and it turns out all those strong feelings help keep a sex life alive. Oh, do you have to dance like a monkey? It's like, no. It's funny enough, though. As you stand up for yourself, you're naturally going to provide that dread anyway because you have strong boundaries. And the girl can always choose not to. But I find, at least over the last 12 years or so, or 13, I don't remember anymore. I got to count. Nah, seems to work. Stick with it. If she's happy, I'm happy. Whatever. Red Dooku, peace out, guys. I'm going to create a new Tinder to satiate my horniness for a new plate. Oh, God, that was worded like Roosh. Anyways, what are we on for time here? 1:38. Yeah, so we're going to end this. I'm going to end this one off. We'll just do some chit-chat in the chat here. So I told you guys about the merch, told you about the second channel. Do subscribe, by the way, if you like just to like fuck around. It's way more casual than this. I don't have structured videos. It's mostly like just some gaming stuff in the background during the day. You put it on when you work, chit chat in the chat. And it's always good because if RedPill ever gets under Trump gets back in office and then RedPill gets under the gun, I can always just leave this shit behind. Be like, all right, now we're doing the gaming stuff. Wow. It's always nice to have an exit strategy, Has anybody broken up with their woman because she doesn't want a threesome, gotten back, and now she wants them? I'm wondering. Try it, man. Is that the situation you have now? I don't know. Girls wanting threesomes, in my experience, has always found 90% of the girls that talk about wanting threesomes, it's always been talk. Because then once you put action in place, then that's when the excuses start coming out. So, granted, I'm not the guy to tell you like the 100% this is how threesomes work. I am with Brandon though. It's not worth it. Like I have in my life, I've done a threesome, a couple swap, and this is before the relationship though. A threesome, a couple swap, and dating a stripper. And the one thing I will say about all three of those things is they are much better as a story to tell your friends than they are about an experience to go through. That's the story is always better than the experience. I actually made that a chapter in the book because I learned that about a lot of things. The one night stands, a lot of the times they were awkward, they were messy. Girls kept breaking shit in my house because they kicked them over because they were drunk. One girl puked in my sheets. Another girl ruined my sheets because she was anemic. And I was like, these are great stories when I tell them, but they were not great experiences. At the time, I was actually annoyed. I was actually really annoyed. Turns out a stripper that eats pills all the time, not the most fun company. But say the word stripper, everybody thinks, oh, wow, that's an alpha male, right? D Digital, $5 super chat. What was the name of the book you mentioned where men are afraid of women's emotions? Well, there's two of them. But the one you're probably thinking of is a book called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty, written by Dr. Manuel Smith. I actually have it on the sidebar. If you go to my playlist, there's one on the sidebar. You're going to look for that. And it gives you like a supplementary data. It's not a replacement for the book. But as you're reading a book, a lot of guys have to kind of read it 2 or 3 times to fully pick up the lessons. So I thought there'd be some value in, as you're running through the sidebar series, to save you the trouble of having to run through it all these times, read a chapter, watch an episode. Kind of shows you like different angles, different ways to look at it, and it helps you internalize the stuff a bit better. So, but yeah, when I say the sidebar, there actually is like a codified set of material on there. We've almost gotten through all of it. The only big one I think is left is, and I don't know if I want to do Sean Smith about Tactical Guide to Women, because that got added after my time, so I haven't had a chance to look at it myself. Then there's 48 Laws of Power, and there's a bunch of one-off stuff, which I'm going to have to kind of get on there. Yeah, plus 10 on the stripper. Don't move them in. Might seem like a good idea on paper. Yeah, a lot of the stuff is. But the one thing I will say about it, though, is that you should do this stuff. All this stuff, we're like, oh, don't do that. Other than the marrying a hoe or single mom shit, like, don't do that, because that's got some long-term consequences. But when I say it's like a better story than an experience, I think, and I'll end the show on this, it behooves a guy who wants to have a strong frame, have your shit together, not be emotional, is to do it, fuck it up, and come out the other side. I'm alone this morning because Carl's doing his family thing, man. We're tiling our kitchen, so I didn't have time to ask. It's good to see you, though, One More, please. By the way, thank you for deleting another Reddit account. You know how hard it is to find your fucking wonderful post now, you son of a bitch? I have to remember the exact wording of the title now to get to it. But yeah, well, isn't that it broadens your horizon? It's like, this is going to sound like shade. I don't even know if I want to tell this story. Well, I'll tell part of the story. I might stop once it starts getting to talking about content creators, but... So I was joking with Ed Lattimore one day. He's a big guy on Twitter, fairly red-pilled, awesome guy. If you guys don't know who he is, like, dude, check him out. And he always has crack jokes, right? And I kind of had jokes with him about crack. It's like, it's funny. You're the only other guy I know who knows about crack. And I started telling my crack stories. He's like, all right, I've never been that close to crack. And I'm like, oh. So in my small town, there was logging, lumber mills, that kind of thing. NAFTA came, kind of gutted the whole community. Drugs ravaged the area. The Hells Angels came, made themselves a presence. And when logging was good, it was like a lot of cocaine flowing through the town, a lot of it. But then when logging was bad, crack started coming through. My stepdad was actually on it for a while there, and he used to bring this friend over. I remember this. I came back home for college. This is where I got like secondhand crack smoking. I was so annoyed by this. It's very sour. I know, not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan of crack. You heard it here first. His friend, his name was Inbred Blaine, and that was his nickname, Inbred. Blaine, I think Ryerson or something like that. Anyways, I can talk about him now. He's dead. Just got out of prison, and they were telling a story about a chainsaw. Went to this guy's house, and I'm like, look, I know you stole my chainsaw. The guy's like, no, I didn't. There's a bunch of crackheads talking about crackhead shit, right? No, you stole my chainsaw. And the guy starts making excuses like, da-da-da. Just bring my chainsaw back or I'm going to break your arm. He repeats himself a couple times. This Blaine guy's huge, by the way. He was like 6'5", a monster redneck of a man. So repeats the story 3 times. He's telling it. And the next day, I went out to my truck and I saw the chainsaw was in the back of my truck. So I went over to the guy's house and I broke his arm. And they start laughing like that was the punchline of the story. And I'm like, holy shit. And my stepdad's arguing with him. He's like, you gave him your word. He's like, fuck that. He stole my chainsaw. Anyways, he ended up getting murdered, which is funny. And I think it had something to do with the guy he murdered. He just got out of prison for in like a 10-year stint. And meanwhile, I'm just learning how to go to art school. But that shit happened all the time growing up. Not that specifically, but all kinds of shit. So when I see... I mean, let's say you live in Romania, and let's say you launder money for the mafia. I'm like, I saw the points where my stepdad was, like, chopping vehicles for the Hells Angels in our machine shop. I saw when we had, like, hot fenced goods at our house, and I got to ride around on, stolen four-wheelers and shit like that. So, like, the point is... Been there, done that. So I'm not impressed anymore by like thuggist hustle shit because I've been there and I'm like, it's a great story talking about fat stacks and cigars and girls with leather sofas. But I'm just like, once you've been there, you're like, I want nothing to do with any of this stuff, man. Nothing. And I would say for you guys, I mean, don't do that. But when it comes to like sexual escapades, get that shit out of your system. Do it. You're not going to like it. It's not good. And when I find content creators kicking the ladder out from under them like Roosh, where he's like, yeah, I did my sex thing. He could have said, I don't like it anymore. I'm going to Jesus. That's fine. But instead, he had to remove everything and say, you never want this for yourself. I'm like, if your path was so great, why did you refuse to let anybody else find out the same way you did? Clearly, it was the way you got there. You wouldn't have wanted it anywhere else. And so that's my thought on it. I would never kick the ladder out from under you. All those experiences, all those thoughts, all those horrible hypergamous things that got you where you are, getting zeroed out. Yeah, a lot of it's a process and you just have to learn it the hard way. But, and this is the good part about it, when you see some other guy full of piss and vinegar talking about how this is the path and I'm the fucking man and 6-figure and Bentley and this and that and the other thing, you just kind of look and you're like, man, just pretend like I don't exist. Or like you just kind of laugh. Like, I'm dating a stripper. All right, well, wish you luck. And the stripper comes to your house, says some weird shit, and you're just like, all right then. But it turns the volume down on things. You start to get like a keen sense of what is actually worth dealing with and what is actually worth addressing in your life and what is just worth laughing off. It gives you a natural aloofness. And I can't tell a lot. I want to tell more stories. I do, but I can't really. Some of them are just too personal. I don't like it. And other ones are like very unbelievable. I've learned that. Bunch of dinner parties. I'd be telling stories. Lived in Montreal. This one girl I knew, she used to hang out with us all the time. She was a Quebec girl. And when we lived in British Columbia, she would only date French guys. But when we moved to Montreal, and she came down here too, she only dated English guys. So she was like, I don't know, your standard blonde college student type thing, right? Warrior, I see yours. I'll get to it in a second. Yeah, bedtime stories, yeah. But yeah, it was always just funny. So I'd tell stories back home. My friends and I would always shoot the shit. She'd hear all our stories and we'd all laugh it off. And then I was at some dinner party with her and a bunch of like people from her school, some professor, some PhD guy. He's like, I've been hearing your stories all night. I believe maybe half of them. And I just kind of laughed. I'm like, really? Because I toned it down 50% because it's because people keep telling me they don't believe it. And then she kind of chimes, she's like, no, I've heard these things before. No, they actually did it. I was like there. And I just laugh. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's kind of taught me too. And you'll learn that if you kind of do your things. You're going to realize that if you had a life that's worth living, you almost don't want to tell it because it just sounds like you're making shit up. And I think once you're there, I think you've had that adventure out of your system. All these guys talking about they want adventure. Go have some adventure. Go do it. Get to the point where nothing you say sounds believable anymore. And then that's fine. You don't have a need to brag about it. Just fucking live your life. Yeah, strippers do tell great stories, fun as friends. They absolutely are. Oh, all right. You want one more? I was going to end the thing, but I'll tell you one more stripper story. This is actually a different stripper, though. Yeah, fill your boots. All right. So, when I first moved to the military, there was a friend of mine. She was a psychology major. Came from Salmon Arm, small town in BC, one of the ones that got flooded. Her best friend and her were kind of like frenemies. They were both kind of like, one was the good girl, one was the slut. Ask which one it was, and the other one will tell you it's the other one. one day I found out she became a stripper. She's like, yeah, she left school. She started to become stripping full time. I'm like, oh, good for her. The other one became my roommate. She was the best wingman ever. Total borderline personality, BPD chick, giant guns, so much fun to party with, lots of tattoos, loved officers, made me look really good at diplomatic events. So, best wingman you could ever ask for. At one point, I get a call from my brother back home. He's like, who the fuck is Gia? I'm like, I don't know who a Gia is. I've never met a Gia in my life. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So he tells me this story that he's at the strip club with his buddies, all the guys that we knew growing up. And there was this stripper up there called Gia. And he's like making conversation because my brother's slick like me, silver tongue. Finds out, where are you from? She's like, oh, I'm from Vancouver Island. He goes, oh, really? I got a brother from Vancouver Island. She goes, really? What's he do? Oh, he's in the military. What's his name? She goes, oh, Ryan. He goes, Ryan. He goes, wait a minute. She names him. She's like, are you this guy? And then all my friends just stopped. They're like, how does she know your brother? He just starts, all of a sudden, like 5 friends from college are on the phone. Who the fuck is Gia? But it was just funny. Like, little shit like that always makes me laugh. But yeah. And I wasn't going to correct them. They just assume I'm up here hanging out with partying with strippers all the time. And I'm like, I didn't want to correct them. Like, that was just a psychology student friend. She just happened to be a stripper at the time. I don't know what to tell you. But, I mean, just get your stories out, man. Go do this stuff. Have some fun. Like, I'm not anything special. I am not a 6'5" Giga Chad. I'm an average, at best, Canadian boy from a farm. Moved to the city, joined the military because I was essentially bored. If I can pull it out, anybody can pull it out, man, because I ain't that special. And then to answer the last question, do you live in the city now? Do you still feel like doing country shit? I like remembering country shit fondly, but I probably won't go inner tubing on the lake again. I probably won't drive a tractor again or a skidder. I don't think I want to till hay or till soil anymore. I don't want to pick rocks out of a field. I don't want to move irrigation lines. Yeah, I kind of like it as a memory, but I probably won't go back. And yes, I do live in the city now. Now I'm the fancy guy in the downtown Toronto condo with like the CN Tower in my backyard and the Blue Jay Stadium. So anyways, enjoy this. Aaron's channel, half an hour. Have fun. Talk to you guys later. Cheers.